Rescue. That is a recovery program just outside of Decatur, Alabama. It's a ministry of the Beltline Church of Christ in Decatur. And Brother Ronnie has spent a lot of years of his life trying to help others who have been where he is. And he has got a message of hope for us today. And he will be speaking both here at the adult Bible class time and then also at our worship assembly. And so we're going to have a few more things to say about him and give him more of an introduction at the worship time. But you will get to know him very well as he shares this message of hope with us today. And been a lot of prayers and a lot of work going into this particular day. And we appreciate Brother Craig Hill so much in the ministry that he has done with our prison ministry and with the support group that he is involved in helping, and he is the one that has arranged for Brother Ronnie to be here, and we welcome him to the Prattville congregation this morning. Brother Ronnie.
Good morning. I'm going to stand up here because I need to see the screen, but in time, hopefully, if I can get through my slides, I'm going to work through them as quickly as possible because I want you to be able to ask me any question that you may have, talking either about myself and my experience with addiction and being in it myself for 15 years and being involved in reaching out to drug addicts and alcoholics for about 25 years. Appreciate being here. Met a few of the elders. And I've met so many that have come up and expressed appreciation for the work. I'm glad to have this opportunity. I'm especially glad to have this opportunity to speak to young people, to speak to teenagers, and in this day and age, you used to say years back, glad to talk to the teenagers about troubles, but today it's sadly it's the case that the preteens also need to hear a message like this. At this point, the context of Exodus 35 is Moses at the burning bush. And I wanted to take this phrase where God told him, where you stand is holy ground. Well, we stand on holy ground, and I want to explain that, what I mean, how I'm using this phrase, not exactly in the same way that Moses was standing on holy ground, but we do. But it's also, when we're talking about an addiction, it's horrendous ground. I had to find an H word. That's something that was terrible, and it's horrendous ground. And this is me in 1984. After about 15 years of addiction. This is how my life ended up. Horrendous and just another terrible. I guess you'd have to say by the way I lived my life, I became a piece of garbage. That's what Psalm 1 is talking about when I think it's verse 4 that says, the ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which are blown away by the wind. Chaff is garbage. It was good for nothing. The wind would just blow it away. And I lived my life from about 17 till I guess about in my early 30s. And I became like garbage, just the way I lived my life. This was the end of it. I was in a motel room, totally addicted to methadone and opiates and to cocaine. This is at the end of my addiction. Really, these officers saved me. I'm surrounded by a SWAT team there. They had orders and the green light to shoot me, take me out, and I would have deserved it to be killed for this crime I committed of kidnapping a policeman. Oh, I just wanted to get away. I was sick and tired of my life, and I'll talk more about that in the next hour, about the despair of addiction. But right now I wanted to talk to you about if you're reaching out to drug addicts and alcoholics, either in jails or prisons or in any way, or even in your own family. It's horrendous ground, but it's also holy ground. The psychiatrist for the state, for the prosecutor, said I was nuts when I pulled the gun on the police officer. I was in the bathroom when they came in the motel room, injecting cocaine. And it was the last shot for the night. I think it was about 12 o'clock. We spent the motel room money on drugs. The manager just wanted us kicked out. I was just a thorn in his side, something to get rid of. That's what I became in my life. Young people, I want you to know the way you live your life. Oh, yes, you could sit there and say, I'll never do that. I'll never get that bad. And probably the case that you won't. I've fallen further. I had fallen further than many that I meet. But still, you can live your life in such a way and decisions you make that'll affect you the rest of your life. Yes, you can become chaff. You can become garbage by the decisions you make in wrongdoing, and especially alcohol and drugs. Galatians 5 talks about all these works of the flesh: fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, and sorcery. That's drugs. We had addictions been around for a long time. And outbursts, selfish ambitions. I only wanted what I wanted, and I wanted it right now. And if I couldn't have it, I'd find some way to get it, even if I took somebody and conned somebody for it. And then drunkenness and revelries. I was involved in all these works of the flesh, just fulfilling all the works of the flesh. Ephesians 2 is another verse. I walked according to the course of this world. Prince, according to the devil, prince of the power, the spirit who now, I was a son of disobedience. Disobedient. I didn't care about any rules. I didn't care about my parents' rules. When I turned 17, I wanted to do what I wanted. I wanted to call the shots. I know there may be some teenagers here now who I call because I have an addiction recovery program, and it's primarily for men, members of the Church of Christ, who when they were teenagers, maybe even pre-teenagers, they did what I call white knuckling it. Is anybody doing it? I don't see anybody doing it. They were holding the front of the pew and sitting in Bible study and hearing the sermons, and they were just white knuckling it, saying, I'll get my time. I won't have to come here and go through this. I will be able to do what I want. Party Saturday night and sleep in on Sunday morning. My time's coming. Anybody, raise your hand if you're sitting here like that this morning. Raise your hand now. Let go. Let go. Don't do it. I know. And then I meet them. Usually 17 or 18, they go out to that far country. Do what they want. They want to do it their way. They get all they can and can all they get of the world. I did that. Then I meet them in their late 20s and early 30s. They became garbage. They destroyed their lives, destroyed their family, destroyed their reputation, that's what I did. So I'm talking about myself too, involved in all these. We conducted ourselves in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh. You see, there's a whole nother world out there in which to live. A whole underworld of society. You don't know it. You may be standing online at Walmart, or right in front of you, or in back of you, or maybe even the cashiers living in this world, fulfilling the lusts of the flesh, living for the devil, on drugs, alcohol, and the other things. Children of wrath, that's what I was. Thieves, covetous, drunkards. See, addiction and alcohol and drugs, they may have not had crack and meth, but they had stuff all the way back to Solomon. Solomon had some good stuff. I'm sure it made him feel good. It's been around a long time. And I'll stand right up here in this pulpit and say, for a time, it felt good, young people. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you. Drugs feel good. Really good. The devil, he's not going to tempt me. Ronnie, go eat some broccoli. I ain't going to eat no broccoli. He ain't going to tempt me for that. But heroin, cocaine, meth. It feels real good, real quick. but oh, what it does to us, what it does to our lives. This is the worst picture. Make sure I don't fall off here. This is the worst picture I've ever seen of me. It was that same night when I kidnapped a policeman. I don't know. That's why I was arrested. Made him give me a ride to get away. Pulled a gun on 2 policemen. And then made the one give me a ride. But that was that night when right after I gave up, they took that picture of me. I'm high right there. I had the policeman for 6 hours. Drove about 60 miles. And then finally, I remember we were sitting out. They backed off. The sheriff was following us, but they backed off. They were afraid I was going to shoot him. I was afraid he was going to shoot me. But I remember sitting out in the woods in that patrol car. I was sitting in the front passenger seat. I was making him drive. He was doing the driving. They backed off, and the helicopter was following us. I found out later. And I started to come down for the cocaine. Now, when I was nuts at the time I pulled the gun because I had just injected cocaine. It was rushing the opiates, the methadone out of my body. I was in withdrawals. I was out of my mind, but I started coming down from the cocaine. But then cocaine, that paranoia sits in. You're scared to death of everything. And I remember sitting there with him out there, just him and me, that young police officer. He had only been an officer 5 months. It was a despicable thing I did. I apologized to him. I tried to find him on Facebook, and I can't because I destroyed his life. He quit. I found out at the trial, reading things about the trial, but that he quit being a police officer that very night. But I became horrendous ground by the way I lived my life. And these other people that you see sometimes, people that are hungry and thirsty and a stranger and naked, I've been through all of those things, been living without. I've lost everything I had in the world, every stitch of clothes, everything, about 7 times in my life. Lost it all, getting out of jail with nothing but the clothes on my back, and those weren't even my clothes. Some people, it's at no fault of their own that Jesus is talking about here in Matthew 25. But for me, it was my fault. I've suffered a lot. As a minister, I minister to a lot of people who suffer for things that they haven't done wrong. Sickness, unjustified things that happen to them, injustice. But for me, it was all myself living that horrendous life. In Luke 15, I often use this to encourage people to become involved in prison and jail ministry because, Jesus goes on to tell the parable of the lost sheep and the lost coin and the lost boy, trying to make a point to them, to those Pharisees and scribes, that he loves the lost, and he does, and I'm getting to that. But I can sympathize and empathize with these Pharisees and scribes. They didn't want Jesus to receive the sinners. They didn't want to be around the sinners like me. A lot of baggage, a lot of trouble. It's just, you don't want to be around them. The things they say, the things they do, it's horrendous. It's hard to be around. I understand what they were saying. That's what my life had become. I ended up going to trial. And I had been in and out of jail. They didn't know what to do with me. In and out of jail, in and out of mental hospitals, in and out of drug programs. My parents were sick and tired of being sick and tired of me because of the bad decisions I made. And again, I'm talking about myself, but there's so many others out there, maybe not as bad as me, but they've destroyed their lives. They've become garbage. How in the world? That's me at 16. How did I become like that? That's the officer I kidnapped. That's when I'm giving up there. What happened? I'm innocent at 16. Some aren't. I know everything I know about the Bible. I didn't have God at all in my life. And I know I was innocent. What happened? When I was 8, 9 years old, I loved Christmas. So we didn't have the Bible when I was little. No prayer. And I didn't have what the young people, what you all have. Never taken to church, never had the opportunity of church, nothing at all. When I was about 8 or 9, I remember Christmas was coming up and I wanted a bicycle. I wanted a new baseball glove. I thought, if I could sing the Christmas song, Silent Night, real soft, and get all the words just right, I'd get what I want. And I remember walking down the street, going to the store for my mom or something, and I'd be singing Silent Night, singing it. That was the extent of my relationship with God. Now that's, I guess, a story that you'd maybe, like some did, smile at for a 7 or 8-year-old. But at 20, that's the same concept. That was my relationship with God. It didn't go any further than that. All I knew was the baby Jesus, the Jesus in the manger. That's all I knew all my life. I'm glad that I finally met Jesus, who died for me and loved me so much. You see, we're getting to the holy ground now. In this judgment day scene, he said, if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it unto me. That's why horrendous ground like me is holy ground. Those of you, when you're walking into a prison, you're going to be around some despicable people. I'm telling you. You're going to be around some bad people that were involved in a lot of evil. People that are, even while they're in that prison, reading bad things, seeing bad things, saying bad things, doing bad, evil things, and they're coming to your class, or maybe they're coming out. It's horrendous ground, but it's also holy ground because you're doing it to Jesus too. That parable of the lost sheep, trying to get across to the Pharisees and the scribes. Jesus is trying to get across why he's receiving the despicable sinners, and yes, even the tax collectors. Why he's doing it. The outcasts of society. I say to you, likewise, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents. You can cause joy in heaven. That's why it's holy ground when you're involved in jail ministry and prison ministry. Again, with a lost coin. After she found it, she was rejoicing. She found something that was lost, and Jesus said, likewise I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Yes, it's horrendous ground. You don't want to be around them. I've been through it. I've shown you my pictures. And sometimes I don't want to be around them. Sometimes I forget why I'm in this work. We had a guy relapse last night. 1-year graduate of the program. Came back after a relapse, just about got him back on his feet, went out with a woman and drugs, 4 different kinds of drugs. He's out. He's out on the street now. Back to becoming garbage. And he'll probably come back again for help. Oh, it's horrendous ground. I get sick of it sometimes, so I know it's hard for people who haven't been through, brethren who haven't been through what I've been through. I know that feeling of not even wanting to be around them, but we need to remember, and this is for me too, that it's also holy ground. But God, this Ephesians chapter 2, terrible darkness, the verses that I've already, most beautiful phrase in the Bible. But God, yes, I was horrendous, I was despicable. But God, who is rich in mercy because his great love which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses. Can't get no worse than that. Dead in trespasses, God knows. God knew. Even when I pulled that gun on those 2 officers and took one and kidnapped him, made him give me a ride and hurt his life, which was a despicable thing. God still loved me. I was on holy ground. I was considered. He saw the potential. Surely he did, like he did in the Apostle Paul. Yes, it's horrendous, but it's holy. This will be my invitation passage next hour. Oh, those terrible things they were doing. Terrible things. Can you read? Oh, yeah. There's another good phrase. And such were some of you. Oh, the gospel of Christ. It's amazing. I know by the horrendous life I lived, I know the power of the gospel and the beauty of the gospel for what it did in my own life, turning it around. You were washed, sanctified, justified in the name of Jesus Christ. Oh, the gospel is something else of what it can do. It does it. Some are coming up, and of course we appreciate what you're doing for, oh, I'll say it, Michael. We appreciate what you're doing. Not me. Not even him. Yes, he has to do his part, but God's doing it to him even while he's not working on himself. God was working on me. Even when I wasn't working on myself. Oh, yes, he waited for me to make that decision. Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick, there's another term for this horrendous ground. Often I have to say to my wife and to myself, they're not evil when they do bad things, when they break the rules, you just get sick of them. Not Michael, though. He's easy. See, you've done your work. Oh, Michael, you can be mad at me and rebuke me on the ride. I've got to ride back with them. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Michael, shake your head that I can talk about you. Can I break your anonymity? Raise your hand. No, okay. No. I said that to somebody that came up and spoke with me. The job has already been done. See, I'm drawing on what you all have already done. For me, there was nothing for that preacher that met me in prison. He didn't have anything from which to draw, if I'm using my phrase right. I had nothing. I'm still knew the baby Jesus, and that's it. I'm still singing Silent Night for a baseball glove. But oh, Michael, the work you all did on him. Where's the youth minister? Raise your hand. Where's the youth? Right over there. You know what I am at Project Rescue, working with people that are coming back and winning them back? I'm youth minister. You're plan A, I'm plan B. That's all I am. They come, are you ready now? How about you all? How about the youth now? Is anybody going to need plan B? But I appreciate you all. Michael, I would say it anyway, Michael is the best we've got. And it's because of what you all have done from his parents and the church. It really is. And we thank God. And it's exciting to get somebody with that because the statistics are so bad when they mess up their lives and it just becomes horrendous. But God can do great things, but it's already in there. And it's amazing. You can see it. You can hear it. Even when they first come in. I'm able to see it after 25 years of experience. And it gets me excited because some come in and have nothing. And it just wears me out because I don't know how they're going to make it. Let me go on. This is a verse. I don't understand all that it means, but it's talking about it. I think it's talking about the horrendous and holy ground. On some have compassion, making a distinction, but others save with pulling them out of the fire. That's what I feel our work is with Project Rescue. Hating even the garment defiled by the flesh. Yes, they're horrendous, but they're holy ground. They're holy. They need to be, that pulling them out of the fire is the work of God. And then I'm going to get to questions. How's my time? Good, I'm good. Because we go to about 1:45, right? Good. I want to know if anybody would have a question. You know, we have a drug problem in America. Nixon declared, we're fighting with what's going on in the Middle East now, and we fought some battles, Iraq, Afghanistan. But have you heard about that war that Nixon declared, war on drugs in 1970s? How are we doing in that war? How's it going in Prattville? Beautiful place here, driving around. Is there a drug problem here? It's everywhere. Everywhere. You know, when you think about it, alcohol's the worst drug of all. It's legal. It's the drug that harms your body more than any other drug. Alcohol, if you were to take all the money and all the heartache and all the destruction of all the drugs, including meth and heroin and cocaine, alcohol causes more damage than all of them put together. Isn't that something, how the devil works? And then meth. You know, they say just about every ingredient that you need to make the drug methamphetamine is found on the farm. See, it used to be just the big city, you know. But now we've got farm boys coming in with their overalls. They're coming in from the farm. I go, what? What in the world's that all about? You'd never think of them being on drugs, but the devil, it's everywhere. Nobody in every congregation too, it's just everywhere. Prescription drugs is on the rise now. People that you would never think are drug addicts. See, I was a gutter drug addict, a gutter junkie. But I'm meeting people that they wouldn't be drug addicts. They hurt their back, they hurt their leg, the doctor gave them pain medicine, the leg stopped hurting, they put the pills in the medicine cabinet. One day they were in a bad mood and took a pill, got them in a good mood, and they were off to the races. And then they mess up their lives, they're writing prescriptions, stealing drugs, and end up in jail, and I meet them. Not a drug addict like me. Prescription drugs, dangerous. Just about most psychiatrists in any city. You can walk into a psychiatrist's office, tell them your story of woe, and you'll walk out with a bag full of samples. Walk out with a bag full of drugs. We're quick to give drugs, looking for the quick fix. It's an American story. Did this come out? Galatians 6:1, brethren, if any of you are overtaken in a fall, you who are spiritual, restore such a one. That's the ministry we're in, restoring ruined lives. Maybe this one came out better. And this is for members of the church who fall away. If one wanders from the truth and someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from the error of his way will save a soul. We're a bridge back from the far country, just like that prodigal son. He went out to conquer the world. Young people, so many at that age. You'll go out to conquer the world. He did, and the world conquered him, just like so many that we meet. We have 19 and a half acres. This was a winter picture here. We have a main house surrounded by 11 apartments. It's a home. It's not an institutional environment that we have in Priceville outside of Decatur, Alabama. We have 15. Now we have 14. I didn't have time to change the number. Hopefully, Michael's laughing. Hopefully it's not down to 12 by the time. We got to get back, Michael. 15 apartments on both sides. My wife and me and our daughter and granddaughter live in the main house, and then we can take up to 21 men right now, just men. We're starting an outpatient program for women. That's the dorm side there. We have, 3 men in there now. We're a Bible-based program. We're a church-focused program. We believe the Bible has the answer. We're not professionals. I'm a minister with a little m. And it's the Bible. We just want to study the Bible. That's it. Get as much. If we were to break the program down into its simplest form, it's this. Pray, read the Bible, study the Bible, do the Bible, teach others the Bible. That's the gist of our program. That's what I did for 2.5 years. I ended up going to prison for that crime. And then it was halfway through my sentence that I obeyed the gospel of Christ. Halfway through my sentence and lived in, I want to ask if there's a question, but I lived in that prison for 2.5 years as a Christian and began pray, read, study, did the Bible, began to teach others the Bible. Let me ask if anybody would have a question, either about addiction or about my life. I just jumped around on that. Would anybody have a question? I'm going to just pause for a little bit. Yes.
Would you say in your life was there one particular turning point for you where where it really changed, or was it a gradual process of a lot of things working together?
Okay, was it one turning point or just a number of things, a gradual process together? And of course, the answer is both, because conversion's a one, which I know is a one-time event. For me, being arrested was a big event. Been a mental hospital, in the mental ward of the jail for 3 months, and I spent 21 months in the jail. But I read the Bible in the jail. Remember, I didn't have anything about the Bible, but I began to read it. One time I made a deal with God. I said, God, I had one of them Good News for Modern Man Bibles, and I said, I'm going to read this from the front cover to the back. When I get to the last page, you're going to let me out. I started reading. I got through all the begets and the begots and Methuselah, man, all this, but I'm reading it. I got to the end. Did he let me out? You think he let me out? Oh, I thought I missed a page. But then I got on to prison, and it was in prison. That was the point when I hit my bottom, to where I look back at my life, at all the destruction and heartache. I had 2 children, a wife, which I lost. I'll talk some about that in the next hour. All of the loss and heartache. I was in that prison. Now I'd been sentenced to 12 years. Didn't know when I was going to get out. Met other men in there that were in there for life, for doing less than I did, some of them. That they were locked up for life. They would never get out. And I said, Ronnie, you're going to be like them unless you made a change. And I remember I was sitting in a class one time learning the trade of air conditioning. And I had this Bible. I didn't know anything about it still. And I held it up, and I didn't know the vow I was making. I know I didn't understand. But I said, I'm going to try to read it. I'm going to write down my thoughts, and I'm going to try to understand it. And I began at that point to read it, write down my thoughts. I went to all the Bible studies. All the different ones were coming in. The Methodist, the Baptist, the Lutheran, the Catholic. I went to a Catholic service and did the communion and relapsed. So I went to all the service. Some of them in there, where they were in that Catholic service, and they made a request for a bigger cup. But then I began from that point. Then a gospel preacher was coming in. So there were instances. He just happened to be there? No, I don't believe it. I remember he was studying Hebrews, and we had to wait because the Baptist preacher was going over on his time, and he was in a bad mood. He was mad, this gospel preacher. But he just started to talk to me about Hebrews, and he started talking about Moses, and I said, I know that. I thought Charlton Heston was Moses. He took me from there, and then growing into where finally I obeyed the gospel, was baptized into Christ. So it was a number of things, but there were some big events, and then just a continual process of having to live the Christian life in that evil environment. Anybody else have a question? Oh boy, okay. Will it do the feedback if I go back here? I'll run back if it does. Okay, go ahead. What was the very first thing that I did to get on drugs? It was drinking a beer. And oh, you girls. It was a girl's fault. What in the world? Let me go over here. I was scared to death of girls. Just scared. You get that feeling in your stomach, those butterflies, and they wouldn't talk to me. What in the world? But I was just afraid, and I drank one beer, and it all went away. And I could be myself. Could I? Was it myself? No. So I was just afraid, and I know there's some young people here just probably afraid. And I drank that beer, and then I lived on that premise for 15 years. That beer solved my problem. It made the butterflies go away, made that knots in my stomach. I could just be comfortable, not be afraid. And I did it from the beer to the pot, to the LSD, to the speed, to the Quaaludes, to the cocaine, to the opiates, to that picture that I showed. So that was the first thing. Any other questions? Yes. Go ahead, then you'll be next. Go ahead.
I just want to make a statement.
Okay.
A few years ago, our second son committed suicide. He was a drug addict, primarily on prescription drugs. And he went through rehab and all that, but he couldn't live in the real world. And when things didn't go to suit him, he pulled out a gun and shot his brains out.
You know, when your life becomes garbage, and I'm going to be talking about that in the next hour, because I'm going to focus on the despair of addiction. And even when they come to us at Project Rescue, they had, just like I had, all that heartache. And it's hard to overcome, to get back out there into society, to live with the guilt. Got a lot of guilt. I can relate to it, a lot of guilt. That's why I needed to meet the Jesus, the Word that became flesh and dwelt among men. That's why I needed to meet that Jesus, to know that he could forgive me. But it's hard to get through it. We live with it all of our lives. Young people, I hope you heard that. And I don't mean to be, and I'm not talking down to you, but you can mess up your life, and many do. And it's hard to get out. The devil gets his clutches on you, and he doesn't want to let go. And so it's hard. But there's hope. There is hope, and we need to know that. We need to know that. Oh, wait. Right here. And then you.
Were you able to work and have a normal life part of the time? You mentioned the wife and children.
What, when I got out of prison?
Well, I don't know. When did you have a wife and children?
When did I have? I met my wife in a drug program. We got married. We had 2 children. We were married for about 12 years. When she was pregnant with my son, we already had our daughter, and she was 5, and then my son was born. I went back out on drugs, and it kept going like that with us. We just could not get back on our feet and get it together. But I did work. I painted houses. She's a Jewish girl. She got an inheritance, had a lot of money. Of course, it was all gone. We spent it all and just destroyed my family, destroyed my life, my marriage, everything. So it's all about loss. The devil's a taker and a destroyer, and he's out to destroy. He walks about as a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, 1 Peter 5:8. And he never takes a break. I don't think he's in a union. The devil doesn't even get a break. Yes?
Was running with the wrong crowd what started you down the road?
Was running with the wrong crowd what started? Yes, I remember. I was a hippie. You see that long hair? I was a hippie. You know what I'd be today? A bum. They don't call them hippies. But I was in a van, a Volkswagen van with the peace sign and the flower power and the curtains. You all laughing. What are these kids laughing about? And the curtains and all that. And I'm sitting in there, and there's a circle of us. This is me now. I showed you the picture when I was 16. This is before I was really started becoming corrupt. And I was with my older sister in there, and they were smoking this funny smelling cigarette. It smelled bad. I didn't want to do it. And they were passing it from one to another. And I'm saying, I don't want to do this. It doesn't smell good. What's it going to do? I'm scared to death. I'm that kid that's scared. But by the time it got around to me, I didn't have a chance. It wasn't even a choice. It was. But you know what I mean? The peer pressure was too much. They were all looking at me. I wanted them to like me. I wanted to fit in. And I took it. And I tried not to inhale. I tried not to inhale. But I did. I inhaled. So, and then it was more, a lot of it had to do with peer pressure and fitting in, just like with the beer and the girl. So your friends have a lot to do with it, getting in the wrong crowd. When I think of it, we've got a granddaughter, Marley now, 17 years old. We've done all we could with her. Now we're sending her off to college. And who she's going to meet? Some rotten boy that I don't like. It's all over then. It's all up to her then. That's life with our children and grandchildren. Who else? How's our time? I didn't hear a bell. We're good. Right here and then here. How did I ever get to the point that I could forgive myself? I haven't. And I'll talk about that in the next hour. I have, in a sense. I know God forgives me. I've learned that. But it's that guilt. That's the main thing. I could sit down and think about it. And I'll talk about it in that next hour. But I know in my head, but it's hard. The hardest thing is for us to forgive ourselves. That's all of us. The hardest thing is to forgive ourselves. And young people, there's things when you get older. Guys come to us, they don't have any children. I go, great. That they know of. They don't have any children. No wife? Good. Because it's simple then. But when there's a wife and there's children, oh. And then there's some men where they have a wife and children. He gets the divorce papers, restraining order. He still has to pay the child support, but he's not allowed to see his children. Oh, it just gets dirty and it's hard. And it's hard for them to forgive themselves and the loneliness too. Somebody else. Yes?
Well, you talk about passing the joint around. You know,
A joint? How'd you know how to call it that? Okay, go ahead.
but, you know, here now we have people pushing to legalize marijuana nationwide. And I'm just curious, I've heard the arguments, oh, it's not addictive, it doesn't alter your mind, you can think clearer. And I don't believe it. How addictive is it, and does it?
Well, we meet people that, he's talking about marijuana and the legalization and all that. I minister to people who only smoke marijuana. And we have a phrase for them, airheads. Ah, yeah. Oh. It's very harmful. And it's harmful to your lungs with all the stuff that's in it. But we've legalized alcohol. When we tried to take that back off, what happened? You're not going to do anything with alcohol. So with marijuana, if they legalize that, I mean, it's a much more peaceful drug. It would probably have been better if they legalized marijuana instead of alcohol. If they switch, if they trade off, maybe. There wouldn't be as much damage with wife beatings, because you're not violent on marijuana. Typically, you're just paranoid and high, but it's a terrible drug for them to legalize it. And I hope they won't, but eventually they probably will. It's terrible. I'm against it. Anybody else? I haven't heard one bell yet, have I? Yes. Oh, have I heard a bell?
One individual that kind of went along with you to help you, that took time out to actually help you through this.
Well, Frank Parker is you're talking about the minister who helped me?
Either him.
I had help all along the way. The church meant so much. In there was Frank Parker. He's an elder and I got 1 minute left, so that'll be the last question. Frank Parker taught me the gospel in there, taught me how to be saved. I was baptized into Christ, and that was a big event. But I'll tell you what's more important to me now. I'm glad that I had my sins washed away. He did what we're trying to do with Project Rescue. He taught me how to use the book, taught me how to study the Bible. You know, we're amazed at how many preachers' sons and elders' sons come to us and they don't know the basic Bible hermeneutics. They don't know how to study the Bible. Now, maybe they didn't use it and they lost it or whatever, but he helped me to do that. And I'm thankful for him to that. When I got out, I went to the Palm Beach Lakes Church of Christ, and they welcomed me in. It's a congregation much like this because I could feel it when I walked in, the welcoming atmosphere. And that helped me. I went there every time the doors were open. I was at the church, and individuals reached out to me. And it meant everything to me, and it meant everything to my family. Because remember, I'm the guy, no Bible, no God, no church. I'm the first one in my family to become a member of the church. My mother was the first to obey the gospel. She just went forward. You know what got their attention? Those of you that are doing prison and jail ministry, I'll hurry up. The far-reaching effects of prison and jail ministry in your casa. You never know who you're going to meet. And that my mother just responded to the invitation. She was baptized into Christ. Of course, my dad was mad. He's the Archie Bunker type. He wanted to go first. What in the world? He didn't want to have to follow her. And finally, I had to cry with him. I baptized my dad. He's dead now. He's on the other side. That man coming in the church, helping me. And then there's 5 of us. My older brother was obeyed. My whole family obeyed. 7 of us in our family. And they all obeyed the gospel. My brother's on the other side too. It's a horrendous, and you brought me back to my point. Yes, it's a horrendous ground, despicable, garbage, the type of people we're reaching out to and having to be around because they're involved in all that evil. It's a horrendous ground, but it's also a holy ground. My whole family obeyed the gospel. My son, cockroach convict Ronnie Crocker. And my son is, of course, a member of the church. He was baptized into Christ when I was attending Memphis School of Preaching, 91 to 93. He was baptized as a teenager. And then he went on to Freed-Hardeman University. He's a deacon in the church at Una in Nashville, working for Dale. Married a girl a good girl, married a girl that he met at Freed-Hardeman. Man, what? Talking about the gospel. So yes, it's the gospel that has the power, but we are to carry it. It can't get into hearts unless we carry it there. So it is a horrendous work, but it's also when we're doing it, we're on holy ground. Okay, I'll go ahead and end here and turn this off and turn it over to who I need to. And
let's close with prayer. Father in heaven, thank you for the change that you have brought about in Ronnie's life. Thank you for the power that your word has and for the influence that he has had on others. And Father, I pray that someone here today can find hope for change through your gospel working in their lives. And Father, may we open up our hearts to you because you are the true healer. Father, we hate so much what sin does to people and what Satan does through addictions. But Lord, we know that there can be victory. And we bring you this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.